Well, she's been presenting with us on the morning show for 15 years, always gracing our screens with a smile and her bubbly personality. But just over a year ago, our very own Karen Ledbury's world was turned upside down when her husband, Aidan, suddenly suffered a severe stroke at home.
Against all odds, Aidan survived the 5-hour emergency operation and 3 weeks in intensive care. But like the 440,000 Australians living with the effects of stroke, the consequences of the medical condition has changed the family's lives completely.
And to mark the beginning of National Stroke Week, Karen joins us here to share her story, along with the Stroke Foundation CEO, Dr Lisa Murphy. Hello to both of you. Hello, so nice to see you on the couch.
Feels a bit weird on this side of the couch with you guys.
So lovely to see you. Karen, you were actually filming in the studio when this tragedy struck your hubby, Aidan. Talk us through what happened that day.
Yeah, it was... like a lot of people that I've been speaking to that have gone through stroke, it's so sudden, it's so unexpected. So we'd woken up, Jordan, my son who lives in Hawaii, was home and he went off to swimming at 4:30 and Aidan and I were just sort of sitting chatting. 5:30 I started getting ready and then I went into the studio about 6:30 and he was having a colleague come over to talk about end of year financial year budget. So he said, "You're going to be gone, I'm just going to do my thing." And so I went into the studio and the studio that we work in is actually like a concrete jungle, so there is no reception. I couldn't get any calls, I couldn't get any texts. And so we were supposed to finish at 4, but I finished at 2, and I went down to the car park, came back out, and normally I get reception on my phone, and I'll ring him and say, "Do we need bread? Do we need to pick something up?" But I wasn't getting reception, so I sort of pulled out and pulled onto the side of the road, turned my phone off and turned it back on again, and there were 37 missed calls. From both of my eldest sons and 2 of my husband's best friends. So I knew that there was something up, but then the text messages came through, SOS, emergency, please help me, from my son, Jordan. And he was 19 at the time, so I thought something had happened to him. So I was sitting in the side of the car, a little bit shocked, because everything was perfect before I left home. And so I rang Jordan, I said, "What's up?" And he said, "You need to get to Royal North Shore Hospital. The doctor's asking us to go and say goodbye to Dad." And what do you mean? Like, he was fine. Yeah. And he said, "Dad's had a seizure. They're not expecting him to last another half an hour. How quick can you get here?" And we were fortunately filming in another studio in Artarmon, and I was right next to Royal North Shore Hospital. So in a state of shock, I kind of didn't actually even compute what was happening. I drove straight into the studio, and obviously with the enormity of it, I just ran straight into emergency, and there was probably about 10 of our closest friends and my boys. And I said, "What's going on?" Thinking that the story would somehow be different. But the doctor and nurses very gently wheeled me in and tried to say goodbye.
Kazzy, it's been like 14 months since the stroke. Aidan's still recovering in hospital now. And during this time, you lost your dad. Your son was diagnosed with cancer. Now, we saw you 10 minutes ago smiling on the show. We'll see you in another 10 minutes doing a nice, bubbly, beautiful, happy segment.
Yeah.
How are you coping with all of this? It's so much going on. What's day-to-day look like for you?
Tough. And there's some really dark days, and I think that's for a lot of people when something like this first happens. I mean, Aidan had his stroke, he's on life support. Jordan went back to Hawaii, and 1 week later, so 3 weeks, Aidan's still on life support, and Jordan rang me and said, "I've just been diagnosed with cancer, I've got to have surgery." So I couldn't go to Hawaii because I was here. It was like, so I think day to day it's tough. I'm both mum and dad. I'm working to support the family, and you know, I'm still grieving my dad, as anyone who's lost their dad knows. And then obviously my son, it's an ongoing process. We've just had more testing. He actually had emergency surgery 3 weeks ago. So it's a day-to-day battle, and Aidan's still learning how to walk. He still can't walk. His communication is limited. So there's day-to-day battles just with that sort of stuff. And then dealing with the day-to-day, cleaning the house, putting the washing on, cooking dinner like all mums do. So it's a real battle, but just feeling people there.
Yeah.
And long after it, 14 months down the track, people sort of get on with their lives and you're still living that every single day. I think that's the toughest.
100%. You're doing so well, Karen.
Thank you.
So well. Lisa, we'll bring the doctor in here. If we listen to Karen's story and Aidan's story, he was fine in the morning. Fine. No, stroke symptoms often are not visible. What should people be looking out for, noting that this is National Stroke Week?
Yes, thank you for letting me join you today. And Kaz, incredible, courageous story. We chatted in March, and it's still an ongoing battle. So pleased that you're still smiling. We like to talk about the fast signs of stroke, because absolutely stroke does just happen out of the blue, and it's always a medical emergency. So when we talk about fast, we talk about FAST. So F is for face. So if somebody's face is drooping on one side, that's a sign somebody might having a stroke. A is for arms. So if somebody can't lift both arms above their head, that's another sign. S is for speech. So if their speech is slurred or they can't get their words out, that's another sign. And T is for time. Stroke is always a medical emergency. Ring 000. Get to hospital as soon as you can. The sooner you get treatment, the better your outcome.
Lisa, there is an incredible number we've got to understand. 80% of strokes, 80% can be prevented. What should we all be doing to reduce the risks?
Yes, and that's the good news. There are things we can be doing. So things like high blood pressure, that's the biggest risk factor for stroke, but also an irregular heartbeat, atrial fibrillation, having a high cholesterol, having type 2 diabetes. These are all big risk factors for stroke. So things that we can do to minimise those things happening include having a well-balanced diet, making sure we exercise, don't smoke, drink alcohol in moderation, and really it's simple things that we can do to reduce our risk of stroke.
Karen, how lucky that that Aidan, your son, was there when this happened to Aidan.
Absolutely. I mean, he would have been flying to America just a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
So, and he had none of the signs, which I know we normally look out for. He's a non-drinker, non-smoker, 53, super fit, none of the signs. He was making a sandwich, felt unwell and started seizing instantly.
Had a seizure. So what's your advice, Karen? Do you have any advice for people who may be listening to your story?
Definitely, when Lisa talks about blood pressure, I've got a portable blood pressure monitor that can tap into my phone. Just keep an eye on simple things. We often think, oh, we'll be fine. You know, I'm only 51, we'll be fine. But just keep an eye on your health. But as far as for people that are going through this and, you know, how do I cope? How do I get past that grief? Is just, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for everything that's happened. You know, he's still alive, which we're so happy about. And just being grateful and staying positive, you know, keeping busy.
I don't know how you got through that segment.
I
don't know how you got through that segment. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
I barely did. I don't think I did.
I noticed the hanky tucked in there just in case.
It's my dad's hanky. My dad always believed to take our hanky, so...
You're such a professional. Thank you for coming. It's a really important message. No, we're not going to make you cry. Doctor, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you for sharing.
Well, it's important because a lot of people, and I found myself over the last 14 months, there are very lonely, dark times where I'm sitting at home and I don't know whether I'm crying about my dad or my son or my husband. And there is the ongoing, you know, he can't walk or communicate properly at the moment. So there's that every single day that I'm seeing the love of my life going through that. So there's multifacets, so just keeping positive and working.
Is there a time you might see him home, Karen, or...?
We're hoping before Christmas.
Good.
We're hoping before Christmas if we can get him home this year. It will be amazing. He's making great progress. I know he's watching.
Yes.
Good on you, Aidan. Hope you're feeling okay
Big love to you, Aidan.
We love you, Kazzy. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.